Hi everyone, and welcome back to Nadine's Corner. So this intro is going to be a little different than what I usually do on here, and I wanted to address that from the start. There's been a delay in uploading this episode, and the truth is, the podcast that you are about to listen to is one that I had recorded previously, and I had it ready to go. But I woke up the morning that I had planned to upload it to some pretty heartbreaking news that kind of threw everything off course. A close cousin of mine had passed away, someone I had considered a brother, and losing someone who was so young is not something that I could have even imagined as a possibility just a few months ago. And these next few months in my life had looked very differently in my mind not too long ago, and it feels like everything changed overnight. A plot twist that I never could have predicted. And to be honest with you guys, I had no idea what to do with this episode. But I took some time away and I came back and listened to it. And I realized that what I talked about in this episode is actually something I needed to hear right now, especially during this time of grief. And maybe someone else out there needs to hear it too. Because here's the thing. In this very moment, you are the oldest that you have ever been and the youngest that you will ever be. And the recording you're about to hear is from before I received this heartbreaking, tragic news. And this episode is about exactly that. The fragility of life, the plot twist that we never see coming, and why it still matters to hold on to good things anyway. I still believe every word of it, maybe more now than when I even recorded it. But this is Nadine's Corner, and welcome to episode 3.
Have you ever looked up at the clouds and seen an animal? Or looked at the front of a car and thought it looked like it was smiling? Maybe you've stared at a tile floor long enough that shapes started appearing. Or maybe you've taken a multiple choice exam, noticed there were 3 C's in a row, and immediately thought there's no way the next answer can be C too. Humans are funny. We're constantly looking for patterns. And honestly, I think that's one of the most beautiful things about us. Our brains are these meaning-making machines. We connect dots, we tell stories, and we search for explanations. We just want the world to make sense. Welcome back to Nadine's Corner. Before we jump into today's episode, I just want to thank you all. Seriously, every time I sit down to record one of these episodes, I am just reminded of how grateful I am that anyone is listening at all. And when I started this podcast a month ago, I never could have imagined the places that it would reach. Looking at the analytics has been one of the coolest experiences because, of course, I expected listeners here from the United States, but seeing listeners all around the United States has been surreal. And of course, I have to shout out all of my amazing family and friends, both here in the United States and in Egypt. Everybody has been so supportive and so amazing, and I am so grateful to have the support that I do on a personal level. Seeing listeners from countries where I don't personally know anyone has been absolutely crazy. It has been surreal. I'm seeing people from places like Brazil, Sweden, Indonesia, the United Kingdom, Japan, and other countries. You're telling me that people there are listening to my podcast and reading my blogs? That is wild to me. And I'm so grateful for anyone that is listening to this. And for those of you who are following both this podcast and my Substack where I post blogs, today's episode was inspired by a recent blog that I wrote called Fleeting Good, which I will, of course, link below. And I want to say thank you to every single person who has taken the time to read and listen and comment and share or even send me a message. I have received messages from people I know personally and from complete strangers, and every single one means the world to me. And honestly, every message I get is just an inspiration to keep this up, and I am just so grateful. I am so grateful for every part of this experience. But one of those messages actually inspired today's episode. In the last episode, I referenced a Noah Kahan lyric, and one of my friends reached out afterward and sent me another lyric from a different song and asked if I had ever thought about writing or talking about it. And
Immediately, I knew what I wanted to do. Now, unfortunately, I will not be blessing you all with my singing today. Sorry to disappoint, guys. Maybe another episode. But the lyric goes, I grew up with a feeling that what's good must be fleeting, that if I'm happy, I'm dreaming, then I'm prepared for you leaving. And isn't that so real? So human? I mean, maybe I'm just an incredibly nostalgic person, but have you ever had one of those moments where you stop and look around? Maybe you're sitting with people you love. Maybe you're driving home after a really good day. Maybe you're walking across your breathtakingly beautiful college campus. Or maybe absolutely nothing extraordinary is happening, but suddenly you become aware of it. You feel that warmth of gratitude fill your chest. And for a moment, you realize that a lot of the things that you once hoped for have somehow manifested in your life in some way. And not necessarily exactly how you imagined them, but they're here. But then almost immediately another thought follows. What if this doesn't last? What if this changes? What if I lose this? And I think that's where today's conversation begins. Because what if that thought isn't actually intuition? What if it's just another example of our brains doing what they do best? Looking for patterns. There was a fascinating study by researchers Stephen Paul, Samantha Monda, Maria Allison, and Brenna Reed Daly, looking at something called apophenia, which is our tendency to see patterns in things that are actually random. The researchers gathered participants and they asked them to create what they believed a random multiple choice answer key would look like. And if humans were naturally good at recognizing randomness, then ideally, their answer sheets should have looked pretty similar to a computer-generated random answer key. But spoiler alert, they didn't. People consistently avoided putting the same answer several times in a row. So, for example, if there were already 3 C's in a row, participants became uncomfortable continuing the pattern, even though a truly random sequence would sometimes produce exactly that. In other words, people weren't creating randomness, they were creating what they thought randomness should look like. And you're probably wondering where I'm going with this, but honestly, I think we do the same exact thing with our lives. Things start going well, we feel happy, loved, excited, but then our brains immediately begin searching for the catch. Okay, what's about to happen? Where's the plot twist? What am I missing? Because surely life can't just be good. And neuroscientists have a name for part of what this process is too. It's called the negativity bias, which essentially just means our brains tend to process negative information more strongly than positive information. And from an evolutionary perspective, this makes perfect sense. It's really good. I mean, missing a threat could be dangerous. And obviously, missing something positive usually isn't dangerous. It's just a nice surprise. But our brains evolved to protect us. The problem is that sometimes the same system that protects us also makes us suspicious of joy. And when something starts to matter, we become aware of the possibility that one day we could possibly lose it. And sometimes we mistake that awareness for prediction, like it's intuition. And here's where I've been stuck lately. Maybe we're looking at this the wrong way. Because life does have plot twists. I mean, life is fragile. And over the past few years, I have had countless reminders of that. Plans change, and health changes, and circumstances change, and entire chapters can change in a single afternoon. And I don't think you have to live very long before you learn that fact about life. And maybe that's exactly why so many of us become skeptical of happiness. We've seen good things end before, and we've experienced disappointment. We've watched chapters close before our eyes, and so the next time something beautiful comes along, we brace ourselves. But what if we're creating a pattern that isn't actually there? What if the fact that something good happened before something painful doesn't mean that one necessarily caused the other? What if those two events are completely unrelated? I mean, in science, there's a saying that says correlation does not mean causation. What if life isn't punishing us for being happy? What if happiness isn't the warning sign that we've made it out to be? Maybe the fear isn't evidence that something bad is coming. Maybe it's evidence that something good is already here. Because life does have plot twists,
In fact, on a personal note, I have recently earned a front row seat to that reality. Things can take a turn that you never saw coming. The future that you pictured can look completely different overnight. And alongside that, I have also been reminded of something that I think that we all know intellectually, but we don't always feel emotionally. And it's that life is temporary. Not in a scary way, just in a way that makes you stop and look around, a way that makes you hold your loved ones a little closer, a way that makes you reach out to a friend that you've been meaning to text or tell your loved ones how you feel more often. A way that reminds you to not assume that there will always be another opportunity, another conversation, and another tomorrow. Not because something bad is going to happen, but because none of us are promised forever. And I think that's why this topic has been sitting so heavily on my heart lately. Because when you're reminded that life is temporary, it's easy to become fearful. It's easy to start preparing for loss before it arrives. But lately, I've been wondering if maybe being reminded of life's fragility isn't a reason to enjoy it less. Maybe it's a reason to enjoy it more. Think about it. What a blessing it is to have something so beautiful in your life that you are afraid of losing it. What a blessing it is to care about something enough that the thought of losing it hurts you. Because maybe the fear isn't the story. Maybe the story is that you have been lucky enough to experience something that is worth missing. And of course, I'm not going to leave you guys without a personal anecdote for this one. Don't you even worry. When I was little, I thought I had a superpower. Surprise, surprise. Yes, as you may be able to gather, I had a very whimsical and imaginative mind as a kid. And in the last episode, you heard about how I thought my vision was a superpower, but believe it or not, that was not the only one. My older brother had taught me this trick once that honestly changed the game for me. I learned that whenever I had a nightmare and I would realize in the dream that I was dreaming, I would squeeze my eyes shut as tightly as I could in the dream, and I would wake myself up. And I thought that this was a superpower because honestly, it solved a lot of my problems. I wasn't nearly as afraid of nightmares anymore because it felt like I had this escape route. It felt like no matter how scary things got, I could always wake myself up. But what I found more interesting looking back isn't this quote-unquote superpower. It's how I thought about dreams. Dreams were exciting, opportunities for adventures and possibilities. And because of this newfound freedom, when I was awake, I would move through life as if it were a dream. And I had this childlike belief that anything could happen in real life too. And for some reason, that never felt dangerous. It wasn't until I got older that I started becoming suspicious of that mindset. And maybe that's what happens when you grow up. You experience enough disappointment that you start believing that dreaming is risky. You start believing that getting your hopes up is naive. You start believing that expecting good things will somehow make the disappointment hurt more when they don't work out. And maybe that's why that Noah Kahn lyric resonated with me so much. There's a part of it where he says, "If I'm happy, I'm dreaming." But lately I've been wondering, what's wrong with dreaming? What's wrong with believing good things can happen? What's wrong with looking around your life and allowing yourself to be excited about it? What's wrong with believing that maybe, just maybe, the future has something beautiful waiting for you? Allow yourself to look around your life and appreciate what's already here. However, there is a really important note that must be made. I think there's a difference between appreciation and attachment. Appreciation is you saying, "I am so grateful that this is here." But attachment is you holding on for dear life and saying, "I need this to stay exactly as it is forever." One allows you to experience the moment, but the other pulls you out of it. And in that lyric that I keep going back to, Noah Kahn talks about growing up feeling like good things are fleeting. But the truth is that everything is fleeting. Not just the beautiful parts of your life. The uncertainty is fleeting. Waiting is fleeting. Heartbreak is fleeting. Difficult chapters are going to pass too. Everything in your life changes. And strangely enough, I find that comforting because if everything is fleeting, then maybe I don't need to spend so much energy protecting myself from change. Maybe I can just be present. And actually, this idea also exists in my faith. There's a verse in the Quran that says, "If you are grateful, I will surely increase you." And I've always loved that verse, and I live by it because it feels like both permission and a promise. Permission to enjoy the good things in front of me without immediately worrying about losing them. Permission to stop treating happiness like a warning sign. And honestly, this perspective has reduced a lot of anxiety for me throughout my life. Not because it guarantees that nothing difficult will happen, but because it reminds me that gratitude and fear cannot both occupy the center of my attention at the same time. Because one asks, what if I lose this? And the other asks, how lucky am I to have this right now? And life feels lighter when I choose the second question. And I think it's important for me to say this. You deserve the good things in your life. You deserve to feel special and chosen and seen. You deserve the same kindness that you give to other people, and you deserve healthy relationships and genuine love and to experience genuine happiness in your life. And sometimes I think we're so afraid of losing good things because deep down, we're not convinced that they belong to us in the first place. I mean, we do this all the time. Someone gives us a compliment and we explain it away, or someone does something kind for us and we assume that they're just being polite. Someone tells us they're proud of us and we immediately minimize our accomplishments. I mean, imagine, what if they're telling the truth? What if you're actually allowed to receive the good things that people offer you? What if you're allowed to enjoy your life, your own life? What if you're allowed to believe that good things can happen to you and that you're deserving of them? You still haven't experienced all of your best days yet. You still haven't met all of the people that you're going to love and all the people that are going to love you. You still haven't heard all your favorite songs or laughed your hardest laughs or seen all of the sunsets that will leave you speechless. There is still so much good waiting for you. And that's not a warning, it's an invitation. It's okay to be excited. It's okay to expect good things. It's okay to believe that you are deserving of said good things. And honestly, I think sometimes you don't get what you want because you're deserving of something that is far better than what you currently have the capacity to imagine or dream of or pray for. And when life reminds us of how fragile everything is, our first instinct is often to become more fearful, to brace ourselves, to prepare for loss before it arrives, to convince ourselves that expecting less will somehow make it hurt less. But I don't think that's the lesson. I think the lesson is the opposite. I think the reminder that life is temporary is an invitation to be present for it, to tell people that you love them, to appreciate the chapter that you're in, to stop waiting for the other shoe to drop and start noticing the blessings that are already sitting right in front of you. Because maybe the amount of good in your life doesn't just depend on your ability to notice it. Maybe it also depends on your ability to trust it, to receive it, to believe that you're worthy of it, and to enjoy it while it's here. So maybe Noah Khan was right. Maybe sometimes happiness does feel like dreaming. But what's wrong with dreaming? What's wrong with believing that good things can happen? What's wrong with allowing yourself to be excited about your own life? Maybe the goal isn't to stop dreaming. Maybe the goal is to stop waking yourself up the moment life starts feeling beautiful.
Thank you all so much for listening. This is Present Nadine, and I want to come back for just a moment before I let you go. In this episode, I talk about a superpower that I thought I had as a kid, which was squeezing my eyes shut in a nightmare and being able to wake myself up. And I meant it as this thing that was hopeful, like an escape route. But I want to be honest with you. There have been moments in my life where I have squeezed my eyes shut as tight as I could. And when I opened them, I realized a hard truth. That I'm not in a nightmare, and that this is real life. And that I have to find a way to get through it anyway. And that is where I am right now. Grief is hard, and it looks different for everyone. And this has no doubt been one of the hardest things that I have had to sit with. But I also meant every single word of this episode, and maybe more now than when I even recorded it. Because here's what I keep coming back to. It would be a shame. It would be such a shame to know that life and everything in it is fleeting and still not hold on to the good parts for dear life. Because every breath is a blessing, and every moment with a loved one is a blessing, and every moment of your life is a blessing. I believe that, even when it's hard to. I think especially when it's hard to. So hold on to your people. Tell them that you love them, and don't assume that there's always going to be another conversation, another summer, and another chance. One day when I look back on every memory I have with my cousin, I know that this heart-wrenching feeling will be replaced with gratitude for every single memory and moment. What a blessing it is to have people in your life that were so incredible that you can't believe there exists a life without them. This episode is dedicated to the memory of my beloved cousin and brother, Kareem. And I ask that everyone please keep him and our family in your prayers during this time. And I do believe that this feeling of grief is also fleeting, like everything else in this life. And that one day this feeling will be replaced with nothing but love and gratitude for every moment we were lucky enough to share life with him. Thank you for listening, everyone. Tell the people you love that you love them. Appreciate the good things while they're here. And I'll see you all in the next episode. Bye.